This is a different hurricane. When you start getting up above 180 and when your wind gusts are over 200 miles an hour, that's a whole different story with a hurricane landfall and the track, and watching this one closely. And that's why I've been saying the last couple of days, the previous hurricanes, that might be a strong tropical storm or a minimal hurricane, you might brush it off. This is 185 miles an hour, and it is expected to be about the same strength as it hits West End overnight and tomorrow. That is 60 miles off our coast. You got to take it seriously. You just have to take this one seriously. Even though the official forecast does have it turning and moving north, this one is also slowing down at the same time, and that's a concern. You do not want to see a hurricane. The computer models don't do a very good job forecasting hurricanes that have stalled or are moving slowly. They also do a better job forecasting kind of an average Category 1 or 2 hurricane, not Category 5. They do a terrible job forecasting tropical storms. We saw that with this one when it moved through the Barbados and St. Lucia last week. But there's the storm tonight, about the size of South and Central Florida. Now, the tropical storm force wind field has now expanded over 200 miles from the center, and the forecast track, this is the new one, moving west at 185. Look at the central pressure. I know folks who watch the weather a little bit more in detail on a daily basis. 910 is, we're getting into record hurricane intensity when you start getting in the low 900s. There is a look at the wind field and what we can expect the next 24 hours. Monday, 2 p.m., 165 miles an hour just north of Grand Bahama. The error cone starts to spread out a little bit and begins to include Palm Beach County before sunrise on Tuesday, and then into the Treasure Coast. That error cone includes just pretty much all of the Treasure Coast and about half of Palm Beach County, and this could flip back and forth. I only mention it because we could easily see a track a little farther west. We have seen the computer models adjust their thinking on the storm slightly west the last 24 hours. The latest track is pretty much down the line from the 11 a.m. track. I took a close look at it a few minutes ago. There's just a touch of a jog by likely less than a mile, so it's essentially the same track. And you may be thinking, well, this is a whole different story from a couple of days ago when the forecast was, well, of course, our earlier forecast had it making landfall and then the turn, but we were still in the error cone the whole way. We're still in that error cone now. Take this one seriously. Get prepared if you haven't already. Put up your hurricane shutters because we have a hurricane watch for Palm Beach County and now a hurricane warning for the Treasure Coast. That is new as of 5 p.m. And it's tough to see all the details on that big map on the 5-day track. So here's a close-up look that I made you. This is pretty much its closest approach. Well, in Palm Beach County, it's this point here. So this is late Monday and into early Tuesday, where it's just north of Grand Bahama. There's a little speck of rocks out there called Memory Rock. It's very close to that. And then Tuesday, 2 p.m., we start to get into the closest approach on the Treasure Coast. And it's closer, you can tell. That's a closer distance than that Monday, late in the day and early Tuesday position. And this is why we have the warning, the hurricane warning now for the Treasure Coast, because it is even a little closer. Hurricane watch for Palm Beach County, hurricane warning for the Treasure Coast, tropical storm warning for Palm Beach County, and back to the west we have a tropical storm watch because we do expect the winds will die off a little bit, not completely, but there'll be less wind around the lake and on the west coast. Hurricane warning all of the Treasure Coast and the offshore waters, and we also have that storm surge. This is a storm surge watch. This is the entire viewing area. Even though it just shows a slice of Palm Beach County, it is the entire coastal area of our viewing area, Treasure Coast, all the way into Palm Beach County. What do the watches and warnings mean? Conditions are expected within 48 hours for a watch, and they're expected within 36 hours for a warning. The computer model tracks still making that turn, and that's good to see. They're certainly better than they were just a few days ago, but with it stalling or moving slowly 60 miles off the coast, there's a lot of uncertainty, and everyone should watch it. Okay, here's a quick look at the time. James is going to break this down even a little bit more. So later Monday afternoon, we get into this tropical storm force wind field, so we're talking 40 to 50 mile an hour sustained winds. That lingers into Tuesday afternoon, and it picks up even more around the Treasure Coast. Along the coastline, we could say 50 to 60, maybe even 70 mile an hour sustained winds for a few hours, and then slowly pulling away after that. But James is going to break it down more on the local effects and what you can expect.
Yeah, so we talked about the wind and then we talked about the rain. Now let's talk about the wave action expected, and it's expected to be tremendous, not only because of the powerful, the wind speed of the storm, but because it's going to stick around and stall for a little bit. So wave action started to pick up today, more of an east swell pushing into the Treasure Coast, the Palm Beaches, not quite yet. However, look at what happens as we go through tomorrow. This swath of seas, 20 to even up to 35 feet in the Gulf Stream out there, and then also right at the time of high tide, which tonight is 11:30, tomorrow is around noon and midnight again. We're going to go through multiple high tide cycles here with this storm sitting out here. Look at this, is another 12 hours here, 20 to 35 foot seas offshore. This is going to shove all this water down and make for a storm surge. Finally, things will start to lift here as we get into early Wednesday. Then it's gone as the storm pulls farther up to the north. We return to our calm conditions. So what kind of storm surge are we looking at? Well, Palm Beach County there, you see, we could see 2 to 4 feet of storm surge in Palm Beach County. More on the Treasure Coast the farther north you head, as the storm will get a little bit closer there, and that may be even up to 4 to 5 to even 6 feet of storm surge there, pushing that kind of like a big surge of tide pushing on in, pushing all that water in. So it'll be very, very high, and it's not just along the coastline either. It's in the intracoastal, it gets shoved up the rivers, all the way, it could be extend a mile or two plus up rivers. So even if you're away from the coast, if you're near water that's connected to the coast, you could run into this storm surge. That's why we have the storm surge warning out there for Palm Beach County all the way up through the Treasure Coast. And as Steve mentioned here, they just have an eastern Palm Beach County coding there. That's all the same up and down the coastline, that storm surge warning. And it's going to go up very, very quickly, peaking out probably tomorrow night through all of Tuesday.